Picture this couple for a second. She works in marketing, brings home $62,000 a year. He's in IT, pulls in $71,000. Together, they're making $133,000. That puts them in the top quarter of all American households. By every measure on paper, they should be doing great. They should be stacking savings, building up retirement, taking a real vacation once in a while, feeling safe and stable. But they're not. They're stressed. Most months, they're barely keeping up. They've got maybe 2 months of savings, and that's being generous. Last month, their car broke down. They didn't have the cash, so it went on a credit card. Both of them work full-time, sometimes more. They're worn out. They barely see each other during the week. A few tired hours at night, and that's it. And here's the part that's hard to wrap your head around. They did everything right. College degrees, good careers, got married, bought a house in a neighborhood with decent schools, combined their money like adults. They followed every rule they were ever given. So why does it feel like they're sinking? How does a house pulling in over 6 figures end up feeling this financially fragile? If you've ever stared at your combined paycheck and thought, we make way too much money to feel this broke, stick around, because this video is about to make a lot of things finally make sense. And honestly, this question has taken over way too much of my brain, trying to figure out why 2-income households today are often worse off than single-income households were 50 years ago. If you and your partner are both working hard, both bringing home a paycheck, and it still never feels like enough, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. Because here's the thing nobody told us. We've all been sold the same story. 2 incomes are better than 1. And on the surface, that seems obvious. Like, it's just basic math, right? If one person making $50,000 can support a family, then 2 people each making $50,000 should be able to support that same family and have an extra $50,000 left over. Money for savings, money for investments, money to actually build something. Simple addition. Except that's not what happened. What actually happened is one of the biggest financial bait and switches in modern American history, and almost no one talks about it. It's called the 2-income trap. The term was coined by Elizabeth Warren, yes, that Elizabeth Warren, back in 2003, when she was still a Harvard law professor studying bankruptcy, long before she ever entered politics. She and her daughter, Amelia Warren Tyagi, wrote an entire book about it after digging through the cases of over 2,000 families who had gone bankrupt. What they found stopped them cold. Having 2 incomes didn't make families more financially secure, it made them more vulnerable, more likely to go bankrupt, not less. Families with 2 working parents were actually filing for bankruptcy at higher rates than single-income families. Let that sink in for a second. Working twice as hard, bringing home 2 paychecks, doing everything the modern economy told you to do, and you end up more likely to lose everything. That's not a personal failure. That's a trap. And there's a good chance you're already standing right in the middle of it. To really understand how this trap works, we need to go back, all the way back to 1970. Back then, about 43% of women were part of the workforce. The typical middle-class family ran on 1 paycheck, usually the dad's, while the other parent stayed home managing the household. And here's the part that surprises most people when they hear it. That 1 income was enough. Not barely enough. Not scraping by. Actually, that's enough. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and U.S. Census records, a median single-income family in 1970 could afford a median-priced home, and housing only ate up about 25% of their income. They could send their kids to public schools that were reasonably well-funded. They could cover health care, a car, groceries, and still have money left over for savings and a family vacation every now and then. They had breathing room, and critically, they had a backup plan. If something went wrong, if the main earner got sick or lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could step into the workforce. That second potential income was sitting in reserve, like an emergency switch that could be flipped if things got tough. Now jump to today. Women's workforce participation sits around 57%, and even higher among married mothers. Two-income households aren't the exception anymore. They're the norm. In over 60% of married couples with kids, both parents work. We've taken that emergency backup plan and made it our everyday survival strategy. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, median household income in 2023 was around $74,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's actually higher than what families earned in 1970. We are making more money than our parents and grandparents did. But look at what happened to the cost of everything else. In 1970, the median home price, adjusted for today's dollars, was around $200,000. By 2023, that number had jumped to over $400,000. Housing costs doubled relative to inflation. Healthcare spending per household has gone up over 600% since 1970. And childcare, which was barely a line item back when someone was always home, now costs the average American family over $11,000 per year per child. In expensive cities, that number balloons to $20,000 or $30,000 per child per year. College tuition has gone up over 1,200% since 1980. The basic cost of living a middle-class life exploded. Wages crept up slowly, and every extra dollar that second income brought in got swallowed whole. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that doesn't apply to us. We're smart with money. We didn't let a second income just disappear into thin air. Fair enough, but let's actually run the numbers together, and I want you to be honest with yourself as we go through this. Let's say one partner earns $70,000 and the other earns $50,000. Combined, that's $120,000, which sounds like a lot. Now let's zoom in on that $50,000 second income and trace exactly where it goes. First stop, taxes. Because of how progressive tax brackets work, that second income doesn't get taxed like it's the only income coming in. The first $70,000 already filled up the lower brackets, so that additional $50,000 gets stacked on top and taxed at a higher rate. Factor in federal taxes, state taxes, and payroll taxes, and the effective tax rate on that second income can hit 30 to 35% or more. Right away, your $50,000 becomes somewhere between $32,000 and $35,000 in actual take-home pay. Next stop, childcare. If you have kids, someone has to watch them while you're both at work. The average cost of daycare in America is around $15,000 per year per child. 2 kids? That's $30,000, gone before you've even left the house. For one child, your $50,000 income is now worth maybe $5,000, and we're not done yet. Next, getting to work. 2 working parents means 2 commutes. The average American commute costs around $5,000 a year when you factor in gas, car maintenance, and vehicle depreciation. Add parking fees downtown, and that creeps up another $2,000 to $3,000. If that second job requires a second car your family wouldn't otherwise need, add the car payment, insurance, and registration on top. All in, call it around $8,000 just to get to work and back. Your $50,000 is now sitting at zero, or less. But wait, there's more. When both parents work full days and come home exhausted, something has to give. Cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, all the things a stay-at-home parent might handle, now get outsourced. Delivery apps, house cleaners, lawn services, pre-made meals, eating out 3 nights a week because nobody has the energy to cook after a 10-hour day with a commute on either end. Studies show that dual income families consistently spend more on these kinds of convenience expenses than single income households, easily an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a year. So let's add it all up. Start with $50,000. Subtract $18,000 for taxes. Subtract $15,000 for one child's childcare. Subtract $8,000 for commuting. Subtract $7,000 for convenience and exhaustion spending. You're left with $2,000. That is not a typo. The real net contribution of a $50,000 second income can realistically be as low as $2,000 a year. Maybe less, maybe negative, especially if you have more than one child or live somewhere with a high cost of living. Someone is leaving home every morning, spending all day away from their kids, grinding through traffic, running on empty, and the household is netting $2,000 for the entire year. That's $8 per workday, about $1 an hour. And here's where it gets really dangerous, because the gross numbers look impressive. You see $120,000 on your tax return, and your brain says, "We're doing well. We make good money." So you make spending decisions based on that $120,000. You buy a house based on what two incomes can qualify for. You sign up for car payments that two incomes can technically handle. The bank looks at your combined income and smiles. Yes, you can absolutely afford this $400,000 mortgage. And technically, you can, as long as both incomes keep flowing, as long as neither of you gets sick, or laid off, or burned out, or needs to step back to care for an aging parent, or has a child with special needs, or runs into any one of the 1,000 unexpected things that life tends to throw at people. That's when the trap snaps shut. This is the part that Elizabeth Warren's research really drove home, and it's the part that most people never see coming. The single-income family from 1970 had something that most two-income families today don't have: a safety net. If the main earner lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. It wasn't fun, it wasn't the plan, but it was an option. It was margin. It was resilience built right into the structure of the household. The two-income family has already used that option. Both incomes are already fully committed to covering the monthly bills. There's no backup plan sitting in reserve. If either partner loses their job, gets sick, or can't work, the family doesn't just feel the pinch. They often can't cover their fixed costs at all, even for a short time, because those costs were built around two incomes from the start. That's exactly why Warren's research found that two-income families were more likely to file for bankruptcy. Not because they were careless or irresponsible, but because they had zero margin for error. They were running at full capacity with no buffer, like an engine with no oil. Everything runs fine right up until the moment it doesn't, and then everything breaks at once. A 2019 study from the Federal Reserve found that nearly 40% of American adults couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. 40%. And a big chunk of those people are in dual-income households making solid money on paper. They're not broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because their expenses grew to consume every single dollar they brought in. And one unexpected car repair is all it takes to tip the whole thing over. And here's what really stings. The expenses that swallowed that second income weren't luxury splurges. It wasn't fancy vacations or designer clothes or frivolous spending, at least not mostly. It was housing, childcare, healthcare, education, the basic cost of being a middle-class family in modern America. Take housing, because this is where something called the bidding war effect becomes crystal clear. Back when single-income families were the norm, people competed for houses based on one salary. Then two-income households became standard, and suddenly families had roughly twice the purchasing power chasing the same homes. What do you think happened to prices? They shot up, way up. When everyone has two incomes become the new baseline. And now you need two incomes just to afford what one income used to buy. It's like everyone agreed to raise the stakes at the same time, and nobody actually came out ahead. The same thing happened with school districts. Public schools are largely funded through property taxes, which means the best schools end up in the most expensive neighborhoods. Parents want good schools for their kids, completely reasonable. So families started using their combined incomes to outbid each other for homes in those neighborhoods. Warren called this the bidding war for educational opportunity. The price of getting your kids into a good public school isn't tuition. It's a $400,000 mortgage instead of a $200,000 one. You're paying tuition. It's just buried in your housing costs. And once you're locked into that mortgage, you're locked into needing both incomes. You can't scale back. You can't drop to one income. The door has closed behind you. So what do you actually do about this? Because right now you might be thinking, okay, I can't just have my partner quit tomorrow. We need both incomes to keep the lights on. And that's real. That's the trap working exactly as described. You need both incomes to maintain the lifestyle you built around both incomes. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Start treating the second income like it's temporary, even if it isn't. Most families do the exact opposite. They treat both incomes as permanent and guaranteed, and they build their entire life around that assumption. They buy the house that two incomes can afford. They lease the cars that two incomes can support. They enroll the kids in activities and programs priced for two-income households. And then they're stuck, locked into a life that can't function on anything less. The alternative is what I call the one-income foundation. You set up your fixed monthly costs, your rent or mortgage, your bills, your non-negotiables, so that they can be covered by just one income alone. The second income then becomes completely discretionary. Savings, investments, paying down debt, maybe some lifestyle upgrades. But the key difference is this: you could survive without it. Life would be tighter, sure, but you wouldn't lose the house. You wouldn't be staring down bankruptcy. You'd have the margin that most modern dual-income families have quietly given away. Let's make it concrete. Say your household brings in $130,000 combined, $75,000 and $55,000. Instead of taking on a mortgage that needs $100,000 or more per year to stay afloat, you buy a home that can be comfortably covered by $60,000. Instead of two car payments, you have one or none. Maybe the neighborhood is slightly less flashy. Maybe the school is good, but not elite. You buy the house that one income can handle, and you put the difference to work. That second income, or at least most of it, goes straight into building wealth. Emergency fund first, then retirement accounts, then investments. Every dollar you put away is buying back something that most two-income families have lost entirely: options. The option for one partner to step back if life demands it. The option to take a career risk, to handle a health crisis without it becoming a financial one. To be present for aging parents. To actually have a choice. Yes, it takes sacrifice in the short term. It means driving past houses you could technically qualify for. It means explaining to friends why you're not upgrading your lifestyle after a raise. It means pushing back against the social pressure to spend like a dual-income family, because you're quietly building like a single-income one. But here's the payoff. Within 5 to 10 years of staying that course, something shifts. The money you invested with that second income starts generating its own returns. Compounding kicks in. And suddenly, you actually have what you always thought two incomes would give you: real financial security. Not the appearance of it, the actual thing. You're no longer one job loss away from disaster. You're building wealth instead of treading water. And you're making decisions based on what's best for your family, not what's required to make the mortgage payment this month. Here's the thought I want to leave you with, because I think it reframes this whole conversation. The two-income trap was never really about income. It's about flexibility. It's about margin. It's about having options when life gets hard. Our grandparents, living on a single paycheck, had something we've quietly traded away: the ability to absorb a hit, to change direction, to have one partner step back and focus on the kids, or care for a sick family member without the whole financial structure falling apart. We traded that flexibility for bigger houses, newer cars, and the appearance of prosperity. But appearances aren't wealth. A big income isn't security. And 2 paychecks aren't better than one if both of them are already spent before they ever hit your account. The families who actually win financially in today's world aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who protected their flexibility, who refused to let their expenses grow to swallow every dollar they made, who kept their backup plan in reserve instead of spending it just to keep up. You can work your way out of a lot of problems, but you can't work your way out of a trap you didn't know you were in. Now you know. The only question left is what you're going to do about it. If this video helped you see your money situation differently, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges the way you think about personal finance.